Thank you, guys. I'm the last guy standing between you and good booze, I'm assured. So I will make it relatively painless and quick. I'm going to talk to you about love, right? And that is the perfect thing to talk about at the end of the day. Now, you've experienced various kinds of love. Love of your mom, love of your dad, love of your dog, love of your friend, and the most important thing, the love of your ex, right? Now, I would say to you, of all the love you've experienced, there is one love that is more important than every other kind of love you've ever had, which is the love of the LLM, the large language model. And yes, size does matter, large language model, not the little ones, right? So, with that in mind, obviously, you ask the question, why is LLM love so important? Well, simply, if you Google anything today, right, looking for a shampoo, a conditioner, anything, the first thing that will show up is what you call AI overview, where Google gives you a summary of what you should be looking for in a shampoo or a conditioner. Or as Raid was like, hey, I got to get the last speaker to get everybody have a little bit of love. And it said, get Pradeep, a handsome Indian man. All right. And so the AI overview is kind of important. And today, everybody, we would say Googles, but now you have the new ChatGPT browser where you're going to find out if you want something, what the LLM comes back to you with, right? So LLM love, if you don't show up in what that LLM overview is, and if your product or brand is not a click ahead of somebody else, it's game over. Right? So you now ask the question, everybody has been working on SEO, search engine optimization, jam every keyword in there. Your child, your neighbor, everybody's name thrown in there, hoping somebody picks it up. That world is dead, or is kind of dying, right? So you now ask the question, how do I seduce the LLM? It is a game of seduction at the end of the day, right? So, why do we think, or I think, I have a possible answer other than wearing a cool jacket? Why do you think you should even pay any attention to me, right? It's because I measured brains of people with dense array EEG on their head, more than 100,000 brains across the planet, right? And I've written a book called The Buying Brain at the very left side. That company was sold to Nielsen. Then I wrote a book on AI, and then my newest book is Neuro AI, which is how do you bring neuroscience and generative AI together. So we taught a lot about love and desire from a neuroscience standpoint, right? Because a very important reason, and I call this almost an NVIDIA moment. Jensen Huang is sitting out there, and he's creating, chips, graphic cards, so he can play video games, Duty a little better and faster. All right. So, and then one day he said, wait a minute, the same chips that can help me play video games better can help train LLMs better. It was his NVIDIA moment that built this trillion-dollar company, right? Now, we had our own little baby NVIDIA moment. What is that? It's very simple. All my life, I've studied neuroscience, and basically the ways to persuade and seduce the non-conscious mind of the consumer. That's what I did for the last 25 years. The funny thing about the LLM, it is the closest anybody has created a piece of code that looks like a human brain, that talks to you like a human brain, that understands you and responds to you like a human brain. So we said, my God, is it possible that every single trick of the trade in neuromarketing and neuroscience, we use to shamelessly persuade consumers to buy this and to buy that? Can we use that and persuade and seduce the LLM? And the answer is yes. The LLM is as susceptible as we are to some spectacular ways of deep understandings of neuroscience unleashed at scale. And that is our little NVIDIA moment. Now that begs the question, what is seduction? What is desire? How do you create desire in the minds of anybody? Now, if there isn't a darn thing you take out of this little spiel that I'm giving to you, what I'm going to say to you right now is going to make all guys studs and all women sirens. You would have mastered desire. All right? Anybody and anything will be under your control. Are you ready for that secret? Yes? I'm sure you are. All right, so this is the secret of desire. Desire is driven through neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters in the brain, from an evolutionary standpoint, right? We desired more resources. We desired safe places. We desired shelter. We desired a partner. So we are biologically programmed to find and trigger desire. It is an biological, evolutionary survival mechanism, and therefore is hard-coded in neurotransmitters. The first neurotransmitter for desire is serotonin. It is the I am comfortable. There is something familiar about this. I kinda know that. Is that comfy feeling of comfort and familiarity an important component of desire? In fact, all antidepressants, which many people in the valley, the Silicon Valley, gobble, all right, the microdosers, right, are all SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. That's what they are. So serotonin is that responsible for that familiarity and comfort. And so anytime you want to evoke desire, that may be something remotely familiar. The next neurotransmitter is dopamine. It is the mechanism for discovery, for novelty, for newness, the thirst for something new. It's not the same old, same old. You go to a Chinese restaurant, at the end of the meal, you got a fortune cookie. You open it. And you always want to say, oh my God, look at what I got, look at what I got. And you add the words in bed to whatever is in there, and it's so much fun, right? So, but it is that little novelty that is dopamine. The second component of desire is a little bit of newness we hunger for. The third one is oxytocin, another neurotransmitter responsible for trust. In an uncertain world, oxytocin is critical. You know when oxytocin is released usually? It is usually released when the mother has just given birth and the baby and the mother need to bond. You know, in the wild, haven't you heard, sometimes an animal gives birth to its young and walks away entirely. And you say, how did that happen? It's a lack of oxytocin, right? So, oxytocin essentially is responsible for trust. That's a very important component of desire. And the next one is what you call norepinephrine, which is simply the Taylor Swifties, that tribalism, that belonging, that powerful sense of we all are in it together, that togetherness, another important component of desire, right? And the last two, I think the previous speaker on robotics said, you know, I always speak in threes, right? And it is very true, very true. You know, when you think about it, cognitive fluency is simplicity. I call it the rule of threes, right? How does it go? You basically divide time, past, present, future, before, during, after, yesterday, today, tomorrow, right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. What is this human obsession with threes, right? So the French even are obsessed with threesomes, but that's a different topic entirely, right? So I would say to you, it is cognitive simplicity, right? Cognitive fluency is simplicity, the rule of threes. And the last one is a self-actualization, which is, how do you make me feel better about myself? The aspired self, the better me, the awesome me. How does it, when you see a company say, hey, in buying my product, you save the world. The packaging is sustainable. Why do you connect to that? Because it could be little me buying a bag of popcorn, but I am saving the planet. All right? It is that connection. So these are the critical elements of desire. When you place them in there, whatever it is, the human brain says, I gotta have it. I connect to it. I don't know why. 95% of human decisions are in the non-conscious. You don't go to a consumer and say, can you tell me why this worked for you? They can't think about their feelings. So because these are the components of desire, what we have done, and when we hacked how to get the LLM to love you, it's very simple. All of these, I'm just giving you a kind of a blasé, vanilla version of how to think about it, because you all will take pictures of these things. I don't want you to take my algorithm when you go away, all right? So the idea being, these elements of human desire, how to seduce the human mind, become important components of how you talk to the LLM about your product. So I'll give you a quick example just to kind of set it firmly in your mind. Here is a little Colgate or some toothpaste, right? And then you run it through each of these LLMs, the OpenAI's LLM. This is the score for findability as to how well that dumb description in Amazon scores with the LLM on a scale of 1 to 100. It's all essentially crap, right? And now, what we did, we took all of our learnings on hacking how to get the LLM to love you, to desire you, to say, come, let's go out together, right? And we basically enhanced these descriptions using that. And very quickly, all scores go up. All scores do, all right? Simply, the LLM, like all human beings, is susceptible to love and desire. Now, it's a very interesting thing. We always think of LLMs as being utterly logical, cold calculating machines that do beautiful things, etc. But if you play with it enough, you quickly realize, because it has studied and it has basically been trained, shall I say, tokenized and trained on every possible thing, you very quickly realize emotions are an extraordinarily important component of how an LLM responds. So, some of what we are doing today is to working with some of the world's largest brands, taking all of their products and the descriptions of those products and making them LLM lovable, LLM findable. And the way an LLM loves you in the US is different from that same love in India. Because if you look at desire, some of the components of desire include tribalism and belonging. So it is no longer, I tell all my clients, it used to be that if you created a perfume or a fragrance or a product in Europe, you would think it's good enough for the rest of the world. No. The world has gotten bigger or smaller, and we honor every culture, every market, every country. And the way you do that is by recrafting your product descriptions so that the local LLM can love you and find you. So I say to you that everything I spoke to you about desire and love applies to all of our lives as well. Everything, all of the elements I told you about, familiarity, novelty, trust, simplicity, tribalism, and what I call the Maslowian bigamy, etc. All of those things that apply to life also apply to the LLM. And if you did what I asked you to do in your product descriptions, you will find that every product you create, the LLM will love, will prioritize over others. In the old world of SEO, which is kind of dying, this is the new world that we are introducing by taking the neuroscience of desire and putting it together. So, my time is up, and I'm Dr. Pradeep. I'm the CEO of Sensory, and I hope you had a wonderful time at this entire conference, and this last little talk about love just was lovely for you. Thank you, guys.